a lot more similar champion priority to what we saw out of the opening match of the day between Fnatic and Jwaow. The Gragas taken away there from Diamond, again, one of the top-tier junglers. Gambit, of course, they have got a different coach this split. Going to move Dimitri, one of the... a member who's been in the team a very long time, but these teams are taking their times with these bans, Krepo.
Yeah, there's a lot of mind games in the current pick and ban scene right now, because they banned out Gragas in response to the Rex side. At least Sejuani open, but is Gambit really gonna first pick Sejuani? You know, we know Diamond likes to play it, and if he does, you know, Dexter probably has an answer ready, so they're probably not gonna see a ban or a first pick on that. LeBlanc taken away from Froggen, so LeBlanc's out, Cassiopeia's out, Azir is open. We might see an Azir ban here. Final Victor ban. This means that Elements knows that if Gambit picks Azir right here, Elements has a plan. I hope so, at least.
Well, we're about to find out. If anybody was going to make that prediction, I'd like to think you would be in one of the better spots to do so.
Yeah, we had many plans back in the day.
But the other thing then is, where does Dexter go in the jungle? With Gragas and Rek'Sai off the table, Sejuani is up. The Azir is first pick.
Well,
so
Sejuani maybe.
All of the ingredients are there. What do Elements want in reply? You know, both of these teams are going to have drastically different play styles to what we saw in the spring split. For Elements, it's because they have 4 new players. For Gambit, it's because Forgiven brings so much weight in his play style alone. We need to see how this works out.
If I was there, I'd lock in Bard already. No joke, actually, I think he's really good against the likes of Azir. You can roam him and basically CC him, you know, from far with the ulti, even though he has a dash, but then you can lock him down. Other than that, I don't know. I think they should steal away Sejuani maybe, but then they have the risk that the Diamond might play an aggressive jungler here. Nidalee is still open, might still be played. Had some success there. Let's just see what Elements replies with and see what happens.
I mean, Nidalee was one of Diamond's most played champions. 3 games in the regular split. He played it in the playoffs as well, but unfortunately they didn't make it past the quarterfinals. And Gambit, of course, ran that heavy tank style of gameplay when we last saw them. Elements going a slightly different direction. They've got that Alistar for support. They've got that Maokai for the top lane. So a lot of safety in those 2 picks.
Did they put Jwaow on like a tank that can hold his own? You know, can do well with some early ganks, but generally is played passively in the top lane to soak up damage. And this opens up for Froggen and Tabzz to carry. I like that for the Elements kind of style. I think Alistar, we highlighted it earlier, fantastic support right now. However, these are 2 champions in 5-on-5 team fights that can get punished by an Azir ultimate really hard. You know, they go in, they get pushed back out. They have no way of getting back into this fight. Let's see what Edward reacts with. Thresh into Alistar, not too big of a fan. I think it's laneable in any sense, but I don't think there's a hard counter for Alistar. You just have to play around his kit. And let's see what Gambit goes for the team comp here. Lucian, staple pickup for Gambit Gaming here for Forgiven. So taking a step back at the draft pick, we could have predicted the Azir pick, and I think Elements was aware, so they knew that was coming. They knew Lucian was coming, so they must have a plan, and it seems like Urgot was left open. Kind of forgot about that, and I think that's really big. Sivir is still a possibility, but running high speed into an Azir wall, you know, may come to bite you. You may rather want to shut down Forgiven in lane, if you can, with the Urgot.
Well, we'll see what Elements do decide to lock in. As far as Gambit's game plan, readable.
What's
you know,
Froggen
everything's gone in. If they want to opt into, I mean, you know, that Urgot you could throw mid as well. It's not too impossible, not really into the Azir.
No, that's actually a really good point. I totally forgot about that. That's actually a really good point. That might actually happen here. So we have magic damage on the jungler, magic damage on the support, magic damage on the top lane. It opens up the opportunity to play Urgot mid, which is one of the few good mid picks left because Victor is out of the equation, LeBlanc's out of the equation. You might actually be right on the money here.
And talking about that, when you run through the magic damage, something that really sticks out in my mind from talking to Froggen in the spring split was whenever team comps were decided, at least according to Froggen and how he explained it, was there are certain checklists he likes to talk about, certain things he likes to look for. Elements are currently lacking some wave clear, which is one of the concerns you have to talk about. Sivir is still open. If they wanted to try supplement that and use the mobility of Sivir to get around maybe the wall or the soldiers from Azir, there are possibilities here.
We got punished really hard by Gambit in the spring split by opting for a combination with very low wave clear and not enough pressure in the mid lane. They basically played this siege comp with Nidalee, taking out tower by tower by tower. You know, Lucian's okay at taking towers. Azir is really good at taking towers. Evelyn pick up here in the jungle for Diamond. Pretty good, like 4th choice. It's happened in the other game as well. 3 jungles out, Sejuani, Rek'Sai, Gragas, and then the next pick is, could have introduced it again at MSI, the Evelyn.
And it is something that Diamond has quite a history on as well. Definitely played that multiple times in the past. So Gambit multiple options with their team comp. They can do a large number of things thanks to the versatility of Azir and Lucian. And the question on our minds, does Froggen lock in Orianna, or does Tabzz maybe lock in Sivir, maybe lock in something else? There's not a lot of magic damage, so the Orianna would supplement that as well as giving you all that teamfight power.
Yeah, the Orianna, it feels so short range to me. It feels very, very short range and very tricky to play. And with good positioning from Gambit in like choke points, etc., in the nice Azir ulti coming out from Betsy, might get tricky. Looks like he's opting for maybe Vladimir. Scales better, I think.
Okay, so
Vladimir mid lane.
What does this mean now for the team comps? Froggen on Vlad, Tabzz on Urgot, different champions from what we've seen all day, but definitely looking for very long, drawn-out team fights. Those are a lot of targets to get through.
No split push. So this is, if you've ever played Yu-Gi-Oh, this is what they call an Exodia comp. You know, you have the left leg of the forbidden one, the right leg of the forbidden one, and if you get them all together, you get that wombo combo, Stompy AoE fight. But by God, if you don't get all your cards on the table right in the middle in a fight, you're probably going to lose because there's no split push from Maokai. There's no split push. Like, Vladimir can split push, yeah, but they basically want to set up these wombo combo ultimates. Right, Trev?
I'm done! You're in your third game in the summer split and you're quoting Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
I'm running out of comparisons.
I don't know how many people are going to keep up with that one. I appreciate and respect that, but I think you're a brave, brave man. The one thing I do see from Elements is so little wave clear. I am terrified for them if they ever fall behind. And all of a sudden, they've got to deal with those Azir soldiers and Lucian and Thresh in their face.
Kind of tricky. Without wave clear, it's easy to flank if you have a lot of wave clear. Like you said, they have no wave clear, right? And it's easy to flank if you have a lot of wave clear setting up for those flanks, buying yourself time when Gambit is knocking on your door. But at the same time, you know, you don't have the time because they'll just push through mid. And that means they'll face the Azir wall up front. And my eyes are on Betsy. And the one thing that speaks against him, farm priority number 1, Cabochard. Farm priority number 1, Forgiven. Betsy ranked 8th in mid laners to get the farm out of all teams, farm share in the game. That means he has almost nothing to work with, while he is the staple, he's the crux of the Gambit composition.
Well, we will find out if he's going to make that one work. We're loading up onto the door for the third time in the summer split. Gambit in the blue trunks, Elements in the red trunks. Two teams that, truthfully, I have no idea how to evaluate their effective strengths coming into the split.
If
different play styles as well.
If Elements gets pushed on all 3 lanes, this can get ugly really quickly, because out of all junglers that like invading, Diamondprox is definitely one of them, you know. And with a slippery Eve, not knowing where she is, and having the possibility of her being in your jungle, in addition to playing a weak early clearing jungler like Sejuani that goes pretty low on the clears, could prove very, very dangerous.
And we'll see if it does. Of course, for everybody that is watching, Forgiven has replaced Pinoy as the AD carry, and GoSu Pepper is, in fact, Edward. He's gone back to his original nickname from several years ago. We've already changed it to Ed Ward with a capitalization on that W. So there's only one new player for anybody who's returning from the spring split.
Good deep ward on a camp from Elements here. I want to somehow figure out where Evelyn starts, because you don't have to see her. If you see her at one camp, you can pretty much predict what she's going to do next in at least the next minute and a half. Give you enough information to play around and play relatively safe. But I just want to reiterate that point. I think Azir can push in Vladimir. I think Gnar can push in Maokai. And I can think Lucian Thresh can push in Urgot, Alistar, especially early levels. So this might be triple pressure for Elements to deal with. And that might be very rough, combined with an early game jungler. Early struggling jungler like Sejuani.
And we'll see what Dexter, Diamond, decides to do if his lanes go aggressive. Where does Diamondprox place his priority on that particular map? We do see Jwaow going top, and Froggen dancing just between the two sand soldiers.
They know where Dexter starts.
Really a big train.
And that's really huge. Deep ward coming out. They know exactly where he is, so they can predict his movement, especially on a particular jungler like Sejuani. Double camp here from the bot lanes. Let's see how that evolves. Helps Urgot Alistar more than it helps Thresh Lucian.
Well, I definitely want to take a look at this bottom lane, because it's two duo lanes that we've not seen yet in summer. And Lucian, we don't see a whole lot of around the world. So what do you expect at these level 2s? It looks like Forgiven and GoSu Pepper are going to be in a good position to get that early one.
Yeah, basically Elements is yielding the pressure here. They already overpushed. Yes, they're level 2, Pepper and Forgiven, but they push so hard that they're actually not going to deny too many minions. But this is Forgiven style. He'll stack that big wave, and where other carries usually, you know, give away a lot of CS, Forgiven is so potent at poking on the tower that Tabzz might actually have to drop some CS. And we see Betsy's already knocking on the door. They know where Sejuani is because they know where she started. So Gambit, in theory, has all the information here.
Well, seems to be playing around that information. A lot of pressure from Betsy. He was pushing Froggen's Vladimir in, as you talked about. For Diamond, I want to see how this Evelyn works, because, you know, we looked at Amazing's Evelyn in the previous game, and I think it did exactly what Origin needed it to do, but you never felt like the early game presence or that invisibility was super impactful.
And if you know the game really well, you know there's almost no threat from Sejuani again. Good hook by Edward.
And a double flay from GoSu Pepper. Forgiven and GoSu really applying the damage to Tabzz and PromisQ. We need to see what sort of CS advantage it eventually yields to, though.
Yeah, and they're basically Alistar at this level 2 has to stay heal, so Edwards, or GoSu Pepper rather, is not scared of getting flash queued and then knocked into the tower because he sees the heal come out. Good poking reaction, and they weren't scared of the gank. Another hook on Tabzz.
Again, Tabzz flying to the Woolite school of AD carry, eating every death sentence in lane.
And this is how Forgiven likes to play, right? He pushes you into the tower, and this makes your behavior predictable. You are going to go for that CS, and I will hook you in reaction. You know, yes, I might not be able to kill you because I don't have the distance, but we'll whittle you down and we'll out-sustain you eventually and then punish you really hard. Forgiven builds up a small lead up until the point where you're broken and he's not, and then he starts really hammering down.
And we'll see whether or not they can keep that one up. Luckily on the side of Elements, PromisQ can heal up Tabzz, but as long as his mana is relevant, GoSu does not connect with that flay. Let's take a look at the rest of the map. We've not actually poked our eyes up top. Small CS advantage for Cabochard, however, Jwaow should be able to even that up shortly. Gnar into Maokai. I'm not expecting a huge amount of action without jungler interaction up top. It's going to be interesting to see who can impact with their teleports. So much simpler on a Maokai than a Gnar.
Yeah, no counter jungling just from Diamond. He has a liberty to basically go anywhere on the map that he wants because all his lanes have the control. I'd like to see Gambit use that to their advantage.
Well, they do have time. One thing we've looked at, both of the previous games, Krepo, have come in around 36-37 minutes average game time. And they've all actually had relatively slow-ish early games. With Fnatic and UNL, it was that sort of 4 versus 0 map swapping until the eventual tower dive. In this particular matchup, as the previous, it's just standard farming. But look at this, Forgiven, 20 CS up, thanks to all of that pressure from the early game.
Yeah, and Dexter can't really do anything because all his lanes are pushed in. His ganks will, if he gets a gank off, it will be incredibly telegraphed. Diamond's finally moving into the jungle, getting some more information on Elements. And while the goal is even, if you're watching online right here, the biggest problem and what you don't see is the pressure meter and how that's affecting the game. All these towers are getting chipped away at, you know, and that will result in a swing maybe in 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes from now, and all the towers from Gambit are 100% HP because nobody's been even close. I think half the Elements members haven't even seen the towers.
Well, I like the idea of the pressure meter. I think I'm going to be revisiting this one with you in games to come, Krepo. And we'll see if the pressure is going to cause Elements to break. Because again, remember, it's only Froggen that's come back from the spring split. PromisQ, this is his first game on stage. And for the, Dexter and Tabzz, these are returning guys to the setup. Tabzz already under a lot of pressure.
Now, a little niche thing you can do here is push in his wave, 55 CS, base for BF sword, and force Urgot to stick on like a longsword tier and maybe another longsword. Really big disparity, but to do that, you relinquish your pressure. So Forgiven might want to do the same thing. Urgot scales pretty awkwardly, like early. You want to kind of deny his tier at the same time. So I think Forgiven will go for the BF pickaxe timing, force a really late tier on Urgot, and then Urgot won't be able to trade either, you know. But Elements is all about this level 6 spike. You know, they want to get level 6 and group up for an objective, but if Gambit prevents them from grouping, they're going to have a rough time.
I want to keep my eye on Diamondprox as well, how he decides to itemize this Evelyn. He was such a big fan of the Warrior Enchant in the Spring Split when many people were not using it, moving away. And, traditionally we've seen Warrior Enchant and Evelyn, but Time, maybe we'll see something different.
Only 300 gold ahead here, though. Like, look at the lanes. Froggen's farming really well in that mid lane. Well pushed. Jwaow.
Do you expect anything different from Froggen?
No.
Even in the Vlad into Azir, etc.
No, he's farming, sustaining really well. So Gambit's like they're puncturing the wall, but they're not breaking it. They just don't have a sledgehammer ready yet. So if Elements can hang on and get a good fight, they can definitely take control of this game. But it's pretty even right now. I'm just worried about their towers.
Well, we'll see if that worry causes Elements any problems, Krepo. We did see Dexter actually hanging out in the tri-bush. He's got access to Glacial Prism. Tabzz relatively close to level 6, I believe. Catch an eye on that experience meter in a moment. once the position reverser and Glacial Prison are available, that's a lot of CC. I mean, Dex is still hanging around. He's been here for a very long time.
Yeah, I think he might even be scared to go into his red jungle. I don't want to say disappointed in Diamondprox, but I would have liked to see some more counter jungle, and given that he had 3 pressuring lanes, I would have liked him to find Dexter, chunk him out, and take control of the game that way, and maybe snowball a dragon, you get something, because right now they're going toe-to-toe. Yes, they're pushing, but CS is pretty even across the board. Mine is forgiven, but that's, you know, expected.
Yeah, and it's the same 20 CS advantage that we've seen all game long. We do finally see the back timing, so it is going to be that BF plus pickaxe.
I think so.
That's the most likely.
He's going BF double longsword. May not have enough gold, but he might also go for a brutalizer, I think, into
Ghostblade?
Yeah, the build that hasn't changed. That might be to give a I'm just guessing you guys should know that, but yeah, let's just assume it hasn't changed.
You haven't needed to build one in a very long time, Krepo.
That is true, but I should know it regardless.
I'll let you off. We did see some backs all across the board. Cabochard grabbed himself that Giant's Belt as well as the Hex Drinker. Jwaow grabbed himself a couple of odds and ends. Catalyst, the Ruby Crystal. We do see with Dexter's relatively late second back, he's actually picked up that Cinder Hulk now as well. Maybe third back, I missed it. And again, we're just going to go back to this farming. So 10 minutes of fast approaching, even on gold. That CS advantage that Tabzz had built up has been closed. And Manamune picked up as well. That's important for Tabzz to at least try to trade with Forgiven. If he gets a few Acid Hunters from range, maybe that can relinquish some of that pressure and lower the meters.
I think Elements is definitely happy with the way this game's going so far. They could have gotten punished, and they survived arguably the roughest part of the game. It looks like some action on bot lane.
Wow, this is a 2v2. It's going to be turned into a 2v3. We do see the hyperkinetic position reverser. A good teleport from Jwaow is potentially going to set up a kill here. That is a beautiful flash lantern from GoSu Pepper. He keeps Forgiven alive, and in the back line, Cabochard is teleported in. Now Jwaow is a man out of position. He's forced to flash defensively. GoSu Pepper lands the death sentence. That's a flash pulverized from PromisQ as Cabochard is knocked backwards, and Froggen joins in for the fray. This is a 5-on-5 party, and Betsy is the target. One more lantern from GoSu x Edward, and it's Elements that get the kill when everyone comes to play.
By our powers combined, we are Exodia. But that's what I mean, right? If your fight goes long enough and some beautiful re-engages left and right, I think Elements played it pretty clean. I think Gambit got greedy once that extra hook. If GoSu Pepper wasn't so good at landing hooks, I think they would have gotten out there 0 for 0. Elements did get the pressure, but good positioning by Dexter. You know, they forced the play on bottom, and they had the TPs ready, but they had the jungle ready in addition there too. Even though Froggen was pressured and Betsy arrived first, they still survived. Really good fight. A lot of niche, like tiny things that both teams did really well in my opinion. But Elements comes out 1-0, and yeah, they're staying into this game. 500 gold lead right now.
Interesting developments. A little bit down on CS in the AD carry, but obviously the kill over to Elements, and interesting team play. I'm looking forward to seeing these team fights play out. You saw how long that previous one took, because you've got a lot of tankiness to burn through on actually both sides.
One thing that was actually borderline hilarious was that Froggen pulled basically under the Azir ulti. He slid underneath, you know, basically untouchable. And maybe that's something why he picked that matchup, because Azir basically, when it's pretty predictable when he's going to ult into a fight, and Froggen managed to get out of there. Diamond's ganking middle lane, no.
He's going to need to get out again. That's a very early Sanguine pull. The Conquering Sands throws Froggen backwards. Yeah, flash burned. We did see him use that ghost to get to the bottom lane earlier. That means if Betsy and Diamond can find an opportunity for Agonies, maybe they can get Froggen. And there's the tower pressure that you had touched on many minutes ago, Krepo. A lot more damage, a lot more chipping away as this mini wave gets cleared.
And this is how Gambit basically can claw back into this game. If the tower is half HP and you basically chunk somebody out of lane, you can almost, at this point in the game, take it down, whereas Elements, imagine they push somebody out of the lane, they can maybe take half HP of that tower, but then that tower is still fully alive and functioning, and that's the difference. Cabochard throwing Maokai into the wall here.
Well, let's see. It's going to be one of the longest fights we'll ever have, if Jwaow sticks to it. Ends up just walking away, and Cabochard committed everything there. I do want to touch one thing. You know, we've looked at these towers. Elements are going to take forever to take towers down. Vladimir is one of, if not the worst champion to take towers down. Just build some AP, but main go tanky. We'll see where he goes with Urgot. And then so many melee champions.
In a
it's
1v1
really difficult.
In a 1v1 split with Vladimir, can actually chunk out the enemy and take the tower that way. But yeah, straight on 5-man siege, they're just going to ignore the towers, you know? Just going to dive him, just AoE him. But that's going to be hard, you know? So what Elements wants to do is draw Gambit out, bait him into an objective, and then flank him.
Well, Froggen and Dexter They've killed Diamond.
So this is a really, really beautiful snowball play. They saw that Diamond base, Betsy wanted the base. Dexter slowed down Betsy's base, enough for Froggen to come in. They pushed in the wave, now they had the pressure, disappeared into the dark, moved into the jungle, and found Evelyn there. This is like chain reaction in League of Legends. And I really like seeing this, going aggressive with your jungle when you know the enemy's in base. They knew if somebody phase 6, Betsy's likely not to be there in time, and really solid move. And this is what Amazing said on the desk earlier. Yeah, Eve is prone to being blown up, and we just saw it there.
Well played by Elements, planning a few steps ahead. As we do see the first tower falls, and surprise, surprise, it is Forgiven securing yet another first tower of the game. PromisQ has roamed up to aid the low hit points Froggen, but we do see that Diamond is coming up to reply. So, Krepo, teleports are not available yet for either of these top laners, and we're starting to see some shuffling around the map.
Yeah, very crucial point. They push in bot wave. Tabzz is busy dealing with that. Alistar has shown all the information is the map for Gambit. Where are they going to go? Are they going to take another tower? Because that will snowball a third tower pretty immediately right after. So this is a very crucial moment of the game right now.
And the decision seems to be middle. GoSu Pepper's moving that way. Pickaxe and Brutalizer completed for Forgiven. Brutalizer picked up for Tabzz as well. And you can see Tabzz making his way towards the mid lane. Wants to farm, wants to go mid. The decision, I mean, there's wards in Gambit's jungle, but they've only just seen GoSu Pepper.
Yeah, they know what's coming, but sometimes you just can't stop it. You know, Tabzz is like, do I drop this wave? Do you need me mid? And they're like, yeah, well, I don't think we can hold it anyways. We don't want to lose that farm on bottom. This is Gambit snowballing that third pressure I said earlier. Yeah, maybe not 5 minutes from now, but 10 minutes from now at the 14-minute mark. They take down a second tower. Azir just replaces that with one of his own. Now they can rotate into the topside red jungle and start working on the top tower, or send somebody bot to pick up that farm that Tabzz actually pushed in too slow. You know, you said it earlier. Urgot, no wave clear, very predictable wave management, and basically Gambit playing, you know, a farm style now.
Wow, 15 minutes. We've got 2 kills on the board. Going to keep going back to those graphs we showed at the,
we like our
the top of the day.
Betsy did a lot of work, guys.
The one thing I do want to highlight, though, the gold is very, very even for both Gambit and Elements. And we'll carry on with this story in a moment, because Cabochard, no Mega Gnar, and there is a little bit of toys to play with. PromisQ with a tri-bush. You see Dexter hiding in the top lane. And they may want themselves a Mega Gnar for dinner.
It's Marcel Felt camp, but right now it's Marcel top camp. Trevor.
Blue team's turret has been destroyed.
Trevor, hello?
I was deciding whether or not you deserve to carry on with that one. All right, GoSu's moved up. It's now a 3v2, but Mega Gnar is charging. Gnar's no longer tired. And we'll go back to a little bit of story time as the engage is going to get thwarted by the hop. Despite Forgiven not being an SK, early tower pressure, rotating 1, 2, and 3, and then potentially setting up for a 1-3-1. That was the eloquence of SK Gaming in Spring Split. Forgiven has changed teams, and he's imposed that similar play style.
Oh yeah, Forgiven will not play your style. You will play Forgiven style. Well, but he's so good at it.
It got them to the playoffs, and then unfortunately some misplays against Unicorns of Love cost them a position in the finals. But the question is then, Elements, let's assume they predicted the draft. They knew the Azir is coming. They got their hands on Sejuani. They got Vladimir, which has done well against the Emperor's Divide. Do Elements also have a gameplay plan against the Forgiven component?
I don't like Betsy dropping this mid tower here. Gambit almost had a 3-for-0 tower change. Elements is grouping on a mid lane. This could be a dive.
Well, we're about to find out. 2v4 in favor of Elements. And we do see the 3 members of Gambit. They continue to push top with all of the attack damage and speed that Forgiven has to play with. He unfortunately doesn't have the minions to back him up, though.
Yeah, 3-man in top lane. Dragon comes up, though, so if this works for a trade, it's okay for Gambit. If Gambit does not get that tier 2, they're actually in trouble, because then they made a positional misplay.
There's no one here to contest. Let's take a look at that top lane tower. They've run out of minions. GoSu Pepper and Diamond not going to tank that one up. Not a lot of combined armor between them. However, Betsy and Cabochard now. So let's see whether or not this flank works out in favor of Elements. Krepo, TLDR, the positional dancing and costs. Elements obviously coming out a little bit ahead in some places, but they may lose top now.
Yeah, really good rotational play from Gambit here, you know, from mid to top, and now they're going on Jwaow.
Well, Jwaw's caught out. The Gnar is available. Gnar's him into the turret. We saw a flash on the bottom. Now tower is secured. Jwaow gets taken away. Diamond is going to flash away. Continues to survive. Summon a heal.
Here's
from Forgiven keeps him out, but it's Jwaow that gets the kill. We do see Dexter securing one as now Froggen continues to chase with Hemo Plague. The pop plus the pop manages to secure it, and it's just kill after kill after kill. Gambit overstay their welcome. Dexter gets 2, Froggen gets another. Cabochard!
So Gambit with
he tried his best.
The objective slow methodical play and elements with the C hero, kill hero, kind of role reversal from Season 2 back in the day. But it seems to be working. And you see, once elements has their grasp on a team fight, 5v5, they absolutely destroy it. Vladimir jumping on Forgiven, there is nothing a short-range AD carry can do. Edward immediately, or GoSu Pepper, immediately exhausted Froggen. That exhaust ran off by the time Hemoplague popped almost. Forgiven had to flash out of the fight. Basically, they just got aced 5 for 0, 5 for 1, and elements in a 5v5 is looking strong. Gambit has to avoid this.
This is such an interesting dynamic. 7 kills, 2 dragons, and only 1,000 gold up because elements have given up 4 of their towers. They're also down 40 CS in the AD carry, 20 top, and Diamond eats a whole lot of damage from those Acid Hunters. But you kind of think the lead should be bigger for elements, but they've given up a lot of their map.
No, I think it actually tells the story of the game perfectly here, and I think Gambit greeted a little bit for that tier 2. They could have played the positions a little better. I think Betsy backed out of mid lane a little earlier, so they could have slowed down the bleeding and done more damage themselves. And as a result of that, they ended up in a situation where they were flankable, and Elements was able to group, and they just destroyed them. You saw, Froggen comes from one side, Sejuani from the other side. PromisQ is so tanky. These long, drawn-out fights in the jungle, unless they get a good Azir ultimate, is not what Gambit wants at the moment.
20 minutes on the clock. 600 gold. That's it. That's all that is between these teams. You can see the items on the bottom of your screen. Edge picked up now Forgiven as we set ourselves up for another team fight. Gambit, if they want to pick this one, they're going up against the 5. That's the Emperor's Divide. We do see the Hemoplague down, and Betsy is gone. The Azir turret is trying to slow down the pace, but Gambit have lost another member. As elements are just barreling forward. Gambit keep putting themselves in a 5v5 position against this Yu-Gi-Oh! Team comp that Krepo is going to.
And that's alright, but Betsy, he went around a corner and then went back. You have to be really respectful of elements engaged, because these guys will not hesitate a second to pull the trigger, because that's what their comp is built on. And looking back, I think elements has crossed this river maybe once. Like in the last 10 minutes, they crossed it once for that tier 1 tower in bottom. But they seem to be donated kills by Gambit on their half of the map, and they're not giving anything away. And eventually, they'll take down these towers from Gambit, and then they'll start growing their gold lead. So Gambit really needs to figure it out, because they're on a timer.
It's quite interesting, actually. If we go back again to pick some bands, we step back, and a few minutes ago I said, do you feel elements have got a gameplay plan for the Forgiven elements? And this defensive play, waiting for Gambit to push, waiting for Forgiven to go for towers, and then picking fights, may have been the game plan from the beginning. Elements have responded a few times to the team fights, because they're not going to take towers. I mean, let's be frank. Against wave clear from Lucian and Azir, it's taken 21 minutes to take this top tower down, and it was uncontested.
Yeah,
maybe.
It feels like some composition that the community flawed element or told the elements a lot in the past. You're playing super passive, you're waiting till you charge up, and it's nice and all in the late game, but can this composition get punished? Could Gambit have closed this out better? Could Diamondprox have invaded a little more, kept Dexter down? Because let's not forget, Dexter got his 1-6 for free. Yeah. AFK jungle, and that's exactly what Sejuani wants. Props to elements to basically almost even CS under so much pressure. Really well played by them. They lost their towers, but then they traded it for kills, so they were fine to do that. But some of these kills Gambit should have not given away, so in theory, Gambit's composition could have trumped that, but then again, Elements is playing beautifully, and they were confident going into this week. They had decent scrim results, allegedly, so let's see how this pans out.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda, I guess. Hindsight being what it is.
Story of my life.
Diamondprox
could have made it to Worlds.
Did actually complete that Magus enchantment on his jungle Evelyn. Quite a detour from what we've been seeing, and this time around GoSu Pepper unable to connect onto Tabzz. Tabzz 55 CS behind, but look at that ring of vision that Elements has set up towards that top inner turret. If they find the opportunity to push it down, they can. Alternatively, Dragon's up in 40. So where do Elements set their sights, Krepo?
I really like the Vladimir pick in the late game because it's such a phenomenal split pusher. He has a Will of the Ancients router, and he has Spellbound, but here's Dexter.
Well, Diamondprox has already thrown down Agony's Embrace. The Death Sentence connects onto a giant tree. And Elements peel away. This has cost them absolutely nothing. The Culling's down, Agony's down, the Box is down. If a team fight were to break out, Elements already had a fantastic comp and a lead, and now they have 3 less ultimates to worry about.
Yeah, Elements basically open up the map by sending Froggen top, getting deports. Gambit tried to respawn, but they almost fell into that same trap of the 5v5 again. Now Jwaow is going bottom to fix that wave. This is a moment where Gambit can breathe. Top lane is pushing out. Bot lane is being dealt with by Elements. So this is where they have to strike. Either push him and get tier 2 or force a fight. But there's always the risk of a TP flank.
Well, TP is available for Jwaow. And it does look like the fight is going to be happening. Gambit, 5 members set up. Dexter's been caught out. Diamondprox sinks the fangs, and Froggen actually flashes forward for this one. 2 exhausts back and forth as Froggen is gone. Froggen gets him with the Hemoplague. The Gnar knocks Elements against the wall. It's a trade 1-for-1. Hyperkinetic position reverser holds Betsy in place, and Betsy is down as Dexter goes unstoppable at 5-0-3. They've traded 1 for 2, but it's not over yet. Elements have got wards towards the top lane. They've got Dragon to peel back to. What can Elements take with the numbers advantage?
Really good read by both teams. You know, Elements, if they were going to defend that tier 2 from the same choke point, then you lose against an Azir. If you come from 2 sides, they can only stop the bleeding on 1. They engaged on Dexter. He went over the wall, but then threw his ulti backwards, aided Froggen. PromisQ with the flash combo on Forgiven. Forgiven auto-attack maybe twice at 5, immediately dropped. And then, again, 5v5 situation. Elements comes out on top.
And they do manage to secure their... Well, not yet. Let's see. Cabochard going to try steal. Basically is going to be safe. We're a little ahead of myself there. 3rd Dragon of the game at 24 minutes.
Okay,
here's the fight.
They engage on one of the flanks. This is what you always have to do if you get flanked. Go on one side, ulti another, but PromisQ flashes over the Azir, double combo on Edward, on Forgiven. Nobody can say Forgiven. Jwaow flanks with his TP. Really beautiful play by Elements. Now Dexter, he went over the wall. He's chasing. He's like, guys, I'm still here. I'm coming. Fight's already over. They take down Betsy. He's not strong enough, and Elements in just a good position in this game. They've made it to the late game. They could bait Baron, unless Gambit sneaks it right now.
Well, Gambit have started this one. Elements are a little late to respond. 5,000 HP, it's below half.
50,
Dexter's
50.
nearby. Flash and Smite are available. Down to 1,700. Baron's on the back line. It's stolen by Elements. Dexter manages to do it in his opening LCS game. Tabzz manages to shut down Diamond and position reverses Betsy back into the middle of the squad as PromisQ boots GoSu Pepper away. The prison locks up Forgiven and sends him back to the fountain. A triple kill for Tabzz, a Baron steal for Dexter, and Elements have completely taken control of the game.
This may look bad from Gambit. Honestly, I think it was one of the better plays they could do if they did not go for that Baron right now, and Elements was a little slower to react. They could have gotten on the Baron, stayed in the game. Otherwise, Elements would have pushed them out. 5-man grouped, baited the Baron, and the game would likely be over. So good read from Gambit to do that. However, 50-50 smite. Dexter, beautiful smite. I think he smited after Diamondprox sent out his, but regardless, I think they would have lost the fight anyways. You know, they used the Azir ulti to disengage. Dexter was in the pit. The wombo combo comes out again, and then, you know, Gambit just can't handle with that, and they're not strong enough to 1-3-1 anymore. And the follow 1-3-1 was something we saw in SK2.
Oh, the invisible Elements kill the invisible Diamond. He almost made it to that lantern.
See, hero kill hero.
Well, Elements 14-1. The outer turret in the bottom lane is still standing. There is, what, 8,000 gold lead, but there's only 2 turrets secured here for Elements. That's from top and middle. Because their champions are so bad at taking towers down.
And Tabzz loves it when a plan comes together. He takes his revenge at the 27-minute mark. They take down the bottom tier 1 tower. Eventually, they get it, you know. Patience, nice and steady.
Hashtag worth is definitely the case. Elements have, you know, they ran a little bit of a gamble in this comp. No wave clear, requiring scaling, needing time, but they got it. They got everything they needed, and they picked such great team fights.
And this is what I like about the Baron change. Like, you can play these comps that don't usually give you an opening to break open a siege, but you can get Baron, you can control an objective, get that objective, and that leads to more sieging potential. Sieging into an Azir is incredibly hard, even with Baron creeps out there. So they'll have to introduce a split push component, so they knock on 2 doors at once, and then basically barge in once the Azir is not there. And they're doing this, you know, some pressure bot. I imagine they'll send Froggen split pushing top, buffing creeps, or somebody to that bot lane right now, open up the defense. But at this point, they might as well straight up dive through, but it's dangerous against an Azir.
Yeah, with that Baron buff on, even though Cabochard's got that teleport advantage, not really going to see any massive opportunities for him. And we break the 10,000 gold lead. It's been slow going, but Elements have inched away, chipped away a lead. built up this mountain that Gambit now needs to overcome. They have 1 kill on the board. 1 kill on the board.
The worst part is they're not going to get any more kills. Jwaow, super tanky. Froggen, super tanky. And has a pull, you know, twice. Alistar, super tanky, you know. Tabzz, he has a Frozen Heart. He's an 80 carry with a Frozen Heart, and they're going in.
Well, let's see who they decide to focus. Betsy gets caught up by the Hemoplague. They jump onto GoSu Pepper. Diamond's on the side lane, gets a huge Agony's Embrace. That's a 3-man Gnar up against the wall. PromisQ's in a little bit of trouble, but Froggen is sustaining his way through Betsy's damage. Another kill for Elements, another tower for Elements. Baron buff has worn out, but when you got a 5v4, there's no one that can stop you. Gambit on the inhibitor turrets. Elements on Gambit's inhibitor turret in the top lane. And they should be able to secure the inhibitor as well. Another great team fight. That's not the man you want, GoSu. Elements, the base is cracked open. Elements, fantastic showing from the 15 to 30 minute mark.
Yeah, and so tanky, you know, they just dove 2 towers and they barely got below. One of the members got below half HP, and then Froggen maybe a little lower too. And just shows, you know, the strength of the composition from Elements here in the lake.
We'll ignore that one. Lantern's there, Lantern's not relevant, and Tabzz gets another one.
Didn't fail the combo, he ran out of mana for Q. It's the worst feeling in the world. You tap W, you tap Q, and nothing happens. You're like, oh, I'm that guy. But luckily for him, it happened when he's 12,000 gold ahead.
It did indeed. I thought that was Tabzz that just got out of the way of GoSu Pepper's spells. Jwaow uses the scuttle grab
to get out.
To scuttle taxi. And then a defensive flash. Elements get their 16th kill, and ironic, the invisible death or the invisible kills onto Diamond. You feel so safe when you're Evelyn. No one can see you, but if there's 5 people in a bush, it will eventually. And again, just that ring of vision. Krepo, every single time I look at this mini-map, Elements are pushing their wards deeper and deeper towards the objectives that they set their sights on.
Yeah, exactly. And now they're getting ready for their 4th dragon. And the thing is, at this point, Gambit has to stop the bleeding. They have to get a dragon, or eventually Elements will get 5. But grouping around an objective means 5v5. And unless you get a really solid Azir ulti and a choke point, you're not going to win a fight. And even then, Elements at this point is so tanky. It's so hard. PromisQ going in.
He does manage to get the combo. Betsy instantly throws down the Hourglass. The Lantern should time out before he can get to it. Not even going to be needed. Now Diamondprox is in trouble. Elements are just running him down. Gets thrown back into the river by Tabzz, who's now 5-0 and 7. PromisQ, another new support on the stage. 0-0-15. More than 2 times the impressive score that James Bond would have put on the map. And Dragon, not even a priority here for Elements.
Really solid itemization as well. We said earlier, Alistar's so tanky, you know. All Elements need to do is find an engagement window. They put the Aegis of Legion on Dexter, and that means both top lane and support can build Righteous Glory and get that engage, because Sejuani is really good at following engage too. So they have so many engage tools on these different roles. Alistar is usually really hard to get into people, but with nice solid flashes, really good use of Righteous Glory, and then blocking the Lantern. PromisQ is playing a fearless game, and it's really nice to see that for his first time in the LCS ever. And
it's fantastic to see the follow-up performance from Mithy in the previous game. You know, Mithy, of course, returning to the stage. He's playing on a world stage as well. PromisQ, this is his first match against Gambit, against GoSu Pepper and Forgiven, 2 of the most seasoned players in the LCS. In lane, held his own, and just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
A worthy success.
Exactly. The thing that we do have to say, though, if you look at Elements, you look at this game and this playstyle, they were given a lot of time. They were given the freedom to get to this position. And I do feel they had a great read on Gambit. Picks and bans seemed to go somewhat predictable. They got some comfortable picks. I mean, the Vladimir's done great into this Azir.
I don't know, you should, I think give it, oh hang on, Froggen's getting caught.
Well, let's see, Exhaust is out, Sanguine is available, as is the Hourglass. Froggen holding on to him, throws down the Hemoplague, then he pulls away. Hemoplague's gonna pop, the Hourglass is in the moment, and it's an instant kill there. Now forced to flash away, it's not over yet. Cabochard gets reversed in, but he's about to become a Mega Gnar. He crunches over the wall. We see Acid Hunter after Acid Hunter connecting. Tabzz gets himself to what looked like a jump on Froggen turned out to be a jump on Gambit. It's not done yet as Dexter has the Glacial Prison. Is he going to throw it out? We do see PromisQ maybe going to find him. Conqueror, the King of the Sands. Alistar wants to look. This is a teleport from Jwaow as well. That is a massive, massive cow. And the wall is going to keep Dexter out for a moment or two, but it's simply not enough. 22-1. in the opening game of the summer split. Elements putting on a statement of a performance.
I think Power of Evil was a little early with his quote about it's going to be a bloodbath. Same day, wrong match. This is really, really brutal. But we have to remember how this came to be, right? This game was by no means a complete stomp. There was a really, really crucial point in the game where Elements managed to hang on just enough to equalize that tower goal loss rather with kills, and then they got into the late game. Of course they're going to win the late game, but we saw that last season as well. Elements kept going for that late game comps, but they got punished sometimes. But looks like they've learned to adapt, and a really, really solid performance. Really impressed by PromisQ as well, and Froggen, the only member returning from Elements with 100% death participation.
Wow.
Froggen feeder.
One more team fight, and we see Gambit throwing everything at Elements. It's just not enough. Froggen's in trouble. He will go down for the second time. Definitely the feeder on the Elements squad as Elements bite off a little more than they can chew this time around. We've seen 2 games ending around the 36-37 minute mark. Elements really just trying to keep up tradition here, I think, as they are going to delay this. PromisQ comes in to save Tabzz. Tabzz low on mana. Forgiven looking for more. He's got red buff. That's
Good
another
guy,
kill
PromisQ.
on the board. PromisQ, the hype is no longer there. You've given up the 3rd kill of the game to Gambit. 0, 1, and 17. Super minions in middle. Super minions bottom. Just a matter of time before they close us up. Minions are... Wow, Emperor's Divide just to protect this inhibitor. And I think that should be enough.
Yes, it is.
We held our breath. We held our breath there.
I don't want to be the guy that predicts that wrong, you know. PvE, you know, predictable minion. But let's take a step back here. This game is obviously turning into a very one-sided show from Elements right now. I just want to take a look back at the champion select. You know, they gave Azir away. They seem to have a plan for it, basically either swapping it into the team or having Froggen be able to flank from different sides or pull under it. We know that Betsy doesn't get the most resources or side lane farm on Gambit, while he still is the crux of their composition. Kind of makes sense, but again, we had questions, right? What is Forgiven gonna do? Well, the answer is exactly the same like he did in SK. What's Cabochard gonna do? Farm a lot, but Jwaow in a lane matchup that is usually dominated by Gnar, he kept on really well. Even CS didn't need any attention from his jungle and allowed Dexter to play around the bot lane. They shut Forgiven down by having counter gank potential and TPs ready. Froggen roamed a little later than Betsy, but he joined the party as well, and
managed to make it work.
Yeah, worked well.
And the interesting thing about that, Forgiven imposes the Forgiven element on the game within the first 20 minutes. And Gambit had some mid to late game poor shot calling in the spring split. And you can argue overstaying for that top lane in a turret. It was one of the big turning points. So
it was
maybe it's
really
also
close,
calling.
though. You have to remember that was really close. If they escaped there, it was a nice trade, and I like Gambit's sequence in which they took the towers. I think that was done well. I think the idea was right. The execution was slightly lacking. Let's not forget, Gambit went out on some members went out on social media, said they had a little trouble practicing, but Elements going out for the final push here.
Well, that definitely seems to be the case. Cabochard's doing what he can as Mega Gnar. He's going to throw 3 members of Elements forward as Betsy's going to knock them upward. Cabochard does survive until that last Acid Hunter from Tabzz. Another kill for Froggen as the Emo Plague is now ticking away. GoSu Pepper's trying to get out. Froggen is chasing all the way forward. The Hourglass is on the steps, and that's going to be his death. He even pulls away for a few more swag points. Elements on the back line, destroying the Nexus. Massive smiles from Elements as they pick up their first win in summer. Not only does PromisQ show up on the big stage against Gambit, against players with such a wealth of experience, the whole team just seems to be, they work that composition well.
And taking a quick look here, you know, Jwaow involved in 19 out of 26 kills, you know, Dexter involved in 20, Froggen involved in 20, Tabzz involved in 18, that's the least. And then 20 assists coming out of PromisQ as well. We see this result, you know, it explains the team compositions. Everybody wants to be in those fights. Everybody wants those assists. Very high kill participation for every member in Elements comp. And it just highlights Gambit couldn't keep them spread, you know. They let them group, and
it also tells the story of the early game about how individualized and compartmentalized every single lane was. Everybody was left to their own devices. Neither Dexter, because he's on Sejuani, could make an impact, or Diamond, arguably because of his decision-making, to not really challenge Dexter.
I don't want to call it Diamond here because I don't know, but I think there was a possibility for maybe some counter jungling.
All three lanes were pushing in favor of Gambit towards Elements. You know, you play for mid to late game, and then Elements outplay you in team fights. I mean, that's sort of the story of this match.
But we'll see how Gambit evolves. Obviously, and adding a new player with such a distinctive playstyle like Forgiven, but really good at that particular playstyle, needs some time to work. We'll see a couple weeks in, week 3, week 4. That's when I'm really going to start judging Gambit. That's when I think they've had enough time to